Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and remember, this video was filmed earlier on Tuesday, and we go live every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. If you want to get your questions answered on the Raiders Report live, you got to tune in then. And it's corn. Only the real ones will know. So give me some corn cobs down in the comments. Let's go to the first one rolling in here from Adrian. What's up, Mitch and Chugs? I read somewhere that the 6 combined defensive players who got combined for 34 sacks and 14 INTs. What's your take on that? I was impressed with the more and more tape I've started to watch on players. Tyree Wilson I always liked. Byron Young is a safe pick that fills a big-time need. Ja'Cory Bennett, the more I've watched on him over the past few days, the more I've started to like him. Christopher Smith, really good leader. Chugs was like, dude, this guy's a solid player. Armari Burney, going to be a good special teams player. Honestly, the guy that I watched a lot more tape on that I didn't watch anything on before the draft started, Nesta Jade Silvera. He might be a sleeper to keep in mind. But the one thing that I do think the Raiders did was they improved their defense a little bit. They still got glaring holes, which when you're as bad as what that team was last season on the defensive side of the football, you're going to have glaring holes. But I do honestly, truly believe that their defense is better than what I initially thought, or the picks were better than I initially thought after going back and looking at some of the tape and going back and looking at a lot of the notes that Tom had on some of those guys. Let's go to a super chat rolling in here from Andre. Trade idea Patrick Queen for Renfro in a second. I do think Renfro ends up getting dealt after June 1st, and Queen's another player to definitely keep in mind. Here's the thing, though. There will be no second-round pick involved for a trade with Hunter Renfro or Patrick Queen. I would say at this point, you'd be lucky to get a fourth-rounder for both. Let's go to Raider Prophet. Mitch, what's the plan now for Malcom Koonce? Is he deemed not a fit? I mean, I've been telling y'all for months that one of the top players to keep an eye on as a trade candidate is Malcom Koonce. Why? He's not a McDaniels guy. He's not a Ziegler guy. You've seen how much they've tried to clean house on players that they don't like or trust or think that maybe they're not a part of their system. Last season, Coons, I want to say, played 67 total snaps. That's obviously not a lot of snaps. And then you go out and you look at some of the moves that they've made from a UDFA standpoint, from a drafting standpoint, and some of the players that they've even signed, hell, they might still sign. I would say right now, Koonce is... I would actually say Koonce has a better chance of not making the 53-man roster than making it based off of what I know and what I've heard going on right now. Brian Darr, hit the like button, just not the long way. Hey, y'all heard it from Brian. If you haven't already, smash that like button. Which, speaking of the long way, who do you think could do a better job of eating corn the long way? This is probably one that I don't even know if I want to win. If you think I would eat corn better the long way, type M for Mitch. If you think Chugs would eat corn better the long way, type C. If you're wondering, why the heck are you asking me that? Jeremy Chugs and I will be doing a Corn the Long Way challenge on Thursday when we do a Warriors and Lakers watch party, so make sure you're tuned in. Let's go to the next one from Raiders Salute. Boys, please tell me Andre Carter was signed by someone. I feel bad for the kid. Easily a 6th-rounder, in my opinion, by the Minnesota Vikings, and I want to say that they gave him over $300,000. One of the highest UDFA's signings, which, you know, it's crazy because there were mock drafts in 2022 that had Andre Carter as a first-round pick. Like, that's how far down the board he fell, and he's probably really kicking himself in the butt for potentially not, you know, going a little bit earlier, or maybe it was a mock. Maybe it was a mock. I think that's what it was. Mock drafts right after the draft that some people thought he was going to go in the first. I'll also say, though, Carter might have made the decision to not get drafted. Sometimes the later and later you go in the draft, some teams will be like, or players will say, no, I don't want to be drafted by you. I'd rather go sign with the team as the UDFA for extra money because it gives me a better chance to make the ultimate 53-man roster. Let's go to Tano Raider 16. Any news on Kyle Van Noy? From what I know right now, no, there's nothing really new. I made a video probably 2 months ago that the number one free agent that I would sign right now for the Raiders would be Kyle Van Noy, and that was more based off of trying to play it cheap. And I also know that they've been looking for a long time for a versatile edge that can play kind of linebacker, that you can drop back into coverage, that can also get after the quarterback. And he's got tons, and I mean tons of ties with McDaniels and with Ziegler and with past, regimes. Let's go to Martin. What's up, my brother? What about Renfro for Isaiah Simmons? That's an interesting trade idea. I'll tell you that right now. Would I do it? Yes. I have always been a big fan of Isaiah Simmons, and I will stand up here right now and I will say this. The Arizona Cardinals, the way that they have used Simmons, it's fraudulent. They have not used him in the right way whatsoever. They have put him at outside linebacker, inside linebacker. They've tried to drop him back into corner. They've tried to do way too much. Isaiah Simmons, from an athletic standpoint profile, he's like one of the most athletically gifted linebackers that I saw coming out of college in a long time. You put him in the right system, he's going to succeed. What you need to do with Isaiah is, I don't want to say not make him think, but let him be an athlete. Far too often, coaches don't let guys be athletes. All you do, say, go be an athlete. And that's what Isaiah Simmons is able to do. For those that don't know, Jeremy and I, we got a brand new McDaniels Eats Corn the Long Way t-shirt. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you're watching this live, get it now. If you're watching this on Thursday, I hope they're still available. And if they are, you better go grab it quick. Giggity. So if you want to get your hands on this Josh McDaniels Eats Corn the Long Way tee, go to the link that you see down there below, chatsports.com/corn. It's also going to be available for you guys in the comments and in the description of today's show. Sizes from small all the way up to 5XL. That's a big corn cob. Let's go to the next one. Rolling in here from D-Train. Should the Raiders sign Gabe Jackson? Wow. No. The only reason why I say no to the Jackson signing is because I get the fact that Raider fans a lot of times, like, they fall in love with a player who's been really good on the team. And when Gabe Jackson was drafted in 2014, he was really good for the Raiders for quite a long time. Over the past few seasons, though, he's definitely taken a little bit of a downtick. And realistically, I know some people might be afraid of Netane Moody at right guard. A sleeper at right guard, McClendon Curtis, which sounds crazy, the UDFA out of Chattanooga. I've watched some tape on him. I went back, I talked to some people who I trust. Sanjeet loves, Curtis. So because of that, one of the biggest reasons, I think everybody has their specialties. Sanjeet's really good at being able to look at offensive line talent. So if he's telling me that he's that good, and then I go look at Tom's draft notes, and there's some people who I trust that he should have been a 4th or a 5th rounder. Don't sleep on McClendon for making the roster. But on top of that, I also like Netane Moody. So because of those reasons, I'm good on no disrespect to Gabe. I'm good. Let's go to Keystone Raider. What's the top 5 spots Raiders need to help the defense since the draft is over? Well, Keystone, I put out a video on Monday about some free agents that if I was the Raiders, I would go out and sign. So what I would tell you is go check out that video because there's actually 5 positions on there that I think the Raiders could go look at. Let's go to Jeff Rogers. What's your take on the drafting of Tucker so early? I said it on draft day. The only way the Trey Tucker drafting round 3, pick 100 makes any sense is if you're trading away Hunter Renfro. I'll admit, I was not happy whatsoever when the Raiders took him at 100. I mean, you can look at Tom's rankings. 24th ranked wide receiver, 186 overall. He's small, but he's going to be a gadget player. It makes your offense creative. You're going to be able to do a lot of fun things out there on the field with Tucker, with DeAndre Carter. He's going to take concentration off of Devontae Adams. He's going to take concentration off of Jacobs. He's going to take looks off of Michael Mayer. I mean, this Raiders offense has the opportunity to be a very legit offense, but it was not a big-time need. In fact, I think wide receiver is the strongest spot on this Raiders team. So for them to take them as early as they did, the only way it will make sense to me is if they trade away Hunter Renfro, which breaks my heart. Let's go to Cali Kitchen Reviews. What do you think our record this year will be? If I had to make a bet right now, I'd say 8-9. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, the fact that you got him, he's a mediocre quarterback, which it is what it is. Your defense really has, I don't even know if it's improved. It might have gotten a little bit worse. Your offense, to me, has improved, though, from an entire unit standpoint. So if you can find maybe a few diamonds in the rough in the defense, maybe you sign another player or two, I would say right now, if I was a betting man, I would set the over-under wins for the Las Vegas Raiders. I'd probably do it at 7.5 or 8.5 games. Let's go to Raiders Tacos. Besides Renfro, which player is the most likely to get traded after the draft? Besides Renfro, I would say Malcom Koonce or Amik Robertson. And it's more, you also got to think when you say trade, it means they have to have value, right? Malcom Koonce to me, holy shit, definitely still has a little bit of value. And also, you got to think Amik Robertson has to have a little bit of value on top of that. So for all of those reasons, those would probably be the two guys that I would say are the most likely to get dealt. I could also throw out a name like Tre'von Moehrig, because Tre'von Moehrig could be another intriguing player that could end up getting traded by the Raiders. Because what if they signed Ron Harmon? Moehrig's another player that's not a Raider in terms of McDaniels and Ziegler's guys. But how about this? I thought it was a good question, Tacos. Besides Renfro, name the Raiders player who's most likely to be traded. Tre'von Moehrig, Malcom Koonce, Amik Robertson would probably be all of my answers. And you smell that? Kind of smells like tuna. This one's coming in from Brandon Jasper. Bang! Huge shout out to Sergio Orozco. For those that do not know, oh, he already says it. Thank you for the opportunity for a jersey. And yes, I ordered my shirt. F McDumbass. Also, locals for the best content and personal interaction. If you want your McDaniels Eats Corn the Long Way shirt, go to chatsports.com/corn. And for those of you that are all watching this live, I mean, we have to do Tuna Clock now. It's National Tuna Day on Tuesday. But Sergio went balls to the wall on a live show, donated a jersey for the Raiders Report. Brandon Jasper, I'm so happy he was one of the winners, and now he's showing love to the Raiders Report. Brandon, you a real one. We're going to be doing Tuna Clock at the end of today's live show. Let's go to Miguel. Would you have picked Jalen Carter over Tyree Wilson? Honestly, yes. If it would have came down to Tyree Wilson or Jalen Carter, I would have taken Jalen Carter, because to me, it was a big-time need. Tyree Wilson's a good player. I do think that there is a less chance that Wilson is a off-the-field risk than Carter, so I can understand them from that standpoint. The only way I will say no is if Chandler Jones is not 100% healthy with the injury that he sustained at the end of last season, because there's two rumors. One, Chandler Jones might not be ready for week 1. Two, that Chandler Jones has been thinking about retirement. If those are both true, then I will say that the Raiders made the right decision by going with Tyree Wilson. But we have to wait to see on that. Let's go to Rebel Montana. What's up, my man? Seeing Josh Jacobs encrypted messages the past few weeks. Should we be concerned about Josh Jacobs' future with the Raiders? Should you be concerned? Yes, but it's only because he's that talented of a player. Like, if you're not nervous, it means you don't care. I get the Jacobs encrypted messages. I'll admit, it's kind of annoying. From a content creator standpoint, I love it. It gives me something to talk about. From an actual Raiders standpoint, there's a part of me where I just want to be like, grow up. You know, don't put it out there. Just stop it already. We get you're upset. Like there's other ways to be able to handle your business, right? But I can also understand from Jacobs' standpoint. He wants to get paid. Coming off the year that he did, I still believe in my heart of hearts that he's going to be a Raider this season. Because if the Raiders are dumb enough to not get any draft capital for this season for Josh Jacobs, it's mind-blowingly dumb to me. Unless you get a 2024 first-round pick, that's the only way that it makes even a little bit of sense. Let's go to Bradley. Do you think we sign any more free agents or not? I'd like Peters or Shaq Griffin. Marcus Peters and Shaq Griffin. I do think Peters is the more likely option. I will say, do the Raiders sign more free agents at some point this offseason? The answer to that is yes. The question is when. And sometimes free agents, like both of these players here, they're going to wait until after June 1st. Because after June 1st, teams get more money, teams move on from some other players, which means veterans like this can get a little bit of a bigger payday. Let's go to Halo Raider 917. If the Raiders traded away Moehrig, who could we sign to replace him? I mean, if you moved on from Moehrig, free safety, you'd probably want to replace him with another free safety. So I would say the top free safety out there, actually it's a good name, John Johnson. John Johnson is definitely a player. I mean, he's had some connections to the Raiders. They have shown interest in him before. He's really only a center fielder at this point, we say. Adrian Amos could be another name to keep in mind. Logan Ryan would be a name. Deron Harmon would be a name to also keep in mind as well. So John Johnson, Deron Harmon, Logan Ryan, Adrian Amos. To me, though, the number one name probably would be John Johnson. So how about this? Would you trade Tre'von Moehrig if it meant 100% you were going to sign John Johnson? It's an interesting question, Chugs. Give me a Y for yes, or you can type your N for no. Would you trade Moehrig to sign Johnson? Yes, no. I'm going to be looking down in the comments. Let's go to Tommy M. Drake Thomas seems like a dog to look for during the preseason. Drake Thomas is going to be a fun player that a lot of Raider fans are going to like because he loves to hit. Dude's just a hitter. He kind of reminds me of a lesser version of Denzel Perryman where Thomas can't cover. And I'll tell you that right now. He cannot cover. And Denzel did take a step forward this past season, but Thomas is going to light some dudes up. Where I remember the one season we did preseason watch parties, and everyone fell in love with Chris Warren. You remember that name? They were calling him Baby Bo. Chris Warren on the offensive side. Bold take, Drake Thomas is going to be the Chris Warren on the defensive side for the Raiders preseason this upcoming year. Let's go to Eric. If Jacobs decides he doesn't want to play under the tag, who's your top replacement? Would you trade for a big-name running back? Would I trade for a big-name running back? Absolutely not. There's no need to trade for a big-name running back. There's enough running backs out there on the free agent market that I'd be like, all right, we can pin this together. We can make it work to the best of our ability. But in terms of going out and signing a big-name guy, spending a lot of money, you don't need to do that. Running back is an easy replacement, and you drafted Zamir White. Is Zamir White even close to Jacobs? No, he's not. But to me, that would be the Raiders' answer. It would be a sprinkle of Zamir White mixed in with a little bit of Amir Abdullah. I hope they move on from Brandon Bolden. A name to not sleep on, though. Sincere McCormick is a hell of a running back. I'm telling y'all, hell of a running back. Now, the reason why I'm going to ask this next question is because Jeremy Chugs and I are going to be doing a live watch party for Lakers-Warriors Game 2 on Thursday night. We're going to do our normal Thursday live show with a challenge. However, it is going to start a little bit later. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Chugs and I, live show, Raiders Rumors. We're going to do a segment, do a mailbag, and then we're going to get wild. We're going to do a Lakers-Warriors watch party because we're not going to be able to do a Friday happy hour show. So if you want to join, please do. But I got to know who you got. Give me the Lakers. Chugs is taking the Warriors. Whose side are you going to be on? Let's go to Madman. With all our new defensive players, what would you rank our defense now? I would say the Raiders' defense right now is probably 23rd, 24th, 25th in the league. Like, they still have needs. Like, their linebacker core is one of the worst in the NFL. I'll still say that their defensive tackle unit is one of probably the bottom units in the NFL. Their cornerback room is going to surprise some people. I'll tell you that right now. Their cornerback room is going to surprise some people. And then the safeties, I still want to see a little bit more out of them. Yeah, you have Max Crosby. You have Tyree Wilson. You have Chandler Jones. If Chandler Jones can take that step, that's going to be a big-time difference maker. But I would say right now the Raiders still do not have a top 20 defense at all. Now, if you want to get more questions from me, remember, you can always hit me up on Twitter. It's probably the best place to keep up to date with Raiders news. If you do, at Mitchell Renz 365. If you want to interact with me on social media, it's also Mitchell Renz 365 on Instagram on top of all that. Let's go to Mountain Raider more legend, John Borelli. And Borelli, he wants the Warriors. Borelli wants the Warriors. So are you going to be joining in, Borelli? Are you going to be joining Chugs and I? It still remains to be seen.